Okay guys, good evening YouTube. Welcome to this first video from the FPL family for season 1920. My name is Lee, this is Sam. If you are new to FPL family, welcome along to this season. Can we say that we've kicked off this season already? It's a bit of a prelude, isn't it? It's a bit of a prelude to the 1920s.
It's a bit of a bonus ball, this.
Bit of a bonus ball. The fixtures are out, so the planning can at least start for the new season. Of course, we're expecting the game to be released at some time in July. Normally we get it about mid-July. That's when we can start planning our teams and picking players. But as we know, the Premier League fixtures are now out and we can start having a look at the teams with the good fixtures, the teams with the bad fixtures. So it doesn't feel like the break was very long, does it? Or does it to you?
No, I feel like we've been gone for ages.
You feel like we've been gone for a while?
Yeah, like I don't know. It feels like ages since the end of the season.
It seems like a long time since the Champions League final, doesn't it?
Yeah. God, why have you brought that up?
Well, we have to address the elephant in the room, right? We have to address that. You went to the Spurs stadium. I was watching it here at home on my own. So give us your feel. What was I know? Yeah, Billy no mates on my own.
I had 62,000 friends. You watched it by yourself.
Was it a full capacity at
yes,
the Spurs stadium?
Was.
Goodness me. Well, listen, guys, that seems like a long time ago, but obviously this half of the FPL family is very happy with that result. But Sam, we are not here to discuss the Champions League final.
Thank goodness.
Is history. That is last season. We're going to be looking forward to the Premier League 2019-2020 season, which is upon us imminently. And as we've mentioned before, the fixtures are now released. So here on the screen with our new graphics, thanks to Luke Walkinshaw. Thank you, Luke, for helping us out with the graphics. This new look, match week 1 here from the Premier League. What are you making of match day 1? Of course, we're going to have a look as FPL managers. The first 4 game weeks, the first 6 game weeks, we've got to look at who's got a good run, and we'll discuss that in a minute. Who's got a good run, who's got a bad one. But for match day 1, who's catching your eye there?
Well, I think it's very hard to overlook that opening game, isn't it, really? Liverpool versus Norwich seems nailed on for a captain option and 3 Liverpool players. And then when you look at the fixtures that follow for Liverpool, that kind of ability to have 3 seems like absolutely the right thing.
They do look pretty good. I must admit, the Liverpool Twitter accounts that I follow, you know, we're all tweeting about our opening sort of 6 fixtures. And there's a game in there against Arsenal at Anfield in game week 3. That's the only one really on the ticker that I think looks like it's going to be, you know, more red than blue, if you like, or more red than green. So for me, the fixtures for Liverpool look absolutely sensational from the off. And match week 1, yes, Liverpool versus Norwich there.
On your birthday as well.
On my birthday. Very, very happy about that. I think we're going to see quite a lot of Salah captains. I think we're going to see quite a lot of Mane captains as well.
Anyone brave enough to triple captain in the opening game week, do you reckon?
Triple captain on Salah or Mane for opening game week, who knows? But from what I've seen of Norwich City as well in the Championship, which is not a lot, admittedly, but from what I've seen, they do like to attack. They are reasonably secure at the back, but they do like to attack. They do like to get their fullbacks bombing on. And of course, we've seen in the past, teams that have fullbacks that bomb on, leave space in behind.
For sure.
And that is perfect for the likes of Mane and Salah. The only thing I will say is that the African Cup of Nations runs between, I think it's the end of June and the middle of July. So Salah and Mane, and obviously some of the African players from the other teams, but Salah and Mane, not Sané, he's somebody totally different. Salah and Mane will be coming, you know, back possibly late if they go far in Egypt, who knows?
And there's the Copa America as well, isn't there?
The Copa America's going on as well.
That doesn't necessarily affect you, but
that affects the likes of Jimenez and someone else, the Gold Cup. Yeah, of course. So talking about Liverpool specifically then and their fixtures, does the Mane and Salah at the African Cup of Nations put you off their initial fixture run, or does that? What are your thoughts around Liverpool? And or is it 2 defenders and one of those guys?
I think it's only one of those guys. But for me, I mean, do I say this? But I'm back in the Firmino camp again this year.
You like Firmino last season?
I'm looking at those fixtures. Yeah, well, I mean, he bit me, didn't he? Because I got him in and then he didn't play. But I'm looking at those fixtures and I'm thinking, I don't really think that I can justify as much of my budget as it's going to take to have Salah and Mane.
Well, let's have a look at these Liverpool fixtures then in a bit more detail. So it's Norwich at home, Southampton away. There's that Arsenal game. Then it's Burnley away and Newcastle home. So I don't think those away games are gimmies, right? Southampton, I'm expecting a good season under Hasenhüttl this year, and they'll want to get off to a good start in their first home game. And then going away to Turf Moor against Burnley. I mean, Burnley had a difficult start last season, mainly because of their involvement in the Europa League. So they're going to be starting afresh. No Europe for them this year. That's going to be a tough away game. So, what do you think? Is Trent Alexander-Arnold in your thinking, or Robertson? Obviously price dependent.
Well, and obviously hamstring dependent as well with Robbo, because he tweaked his hamstring, didn't he, away with Scotland?
Yes, I did see that.
So obviously there's talk that he may not be fit for the beginning of the season even. But I think there are some great options at Liverpool. I think a lot of us last season didn't go for Alisson because we had the double up with Robertson and TAA, or people had Van Dijk. Obviously, I think those are all still really, really good options. But I don't think many people will be able to afford to get Mane and Salah this season. I can't see.
It's going to be tough because they're both going to be coming in at 11. Well, Mane 11, 12, and Salah probably more.
Yeah. Mane's going to have a massive hike from where he started this season. Just gone. Salah obviously probably pretty much going to hold, I would have thought, in terms of value.
Okay.
Given that he won the Golden Boot again this season. So it's going to be tough to have them both. So I think you've got to look for some differentials out there in Liverpool. And then for me, maybe even Oxlade-Chamberlain might be nice differentials.
Very good. All right, let's turn our attentions to the blue side of Merseyside then and talk about Everton's opening fixtures. Their first 4 fixtures here that you can see: Palace away, Watford at home, Villa away, Wolves at home. But actually, if you look at the wider ticket, if you expand your view to the first 10 or even 15 games for Everton, they look very, very good indeed. They only play one of last season's top 6, I think, which is Man City, in their first sort of 8 or 9 games or something. So the fixtures look very, very good for Everton. Anybody on your Toffees radar that you'll be looking, who will you be looking at from the Blues?
Well, there's obviously Luca Digne, who I think it's a bit of a no-brainer to look at Luca Digne. I imagine that most seasoned FPL managers will be looking towards him. But there's obviously Seamus Coleman as well in terms of defensive assets at Everton.
Who actually outscored Digne last year in FPL, right?
Yeah, and I think the obvious pick in defence is to go for Dean. But actually, maybe we should be looking at Seamus Coleman, who's likely to come in a little bit cheaper. So when we're thinking about budgets, he might just offer us a nice alternative.
Expecting lots of clean sheets from the Toffees this year? With those fixtures, I guess, maybe.
And actually, if we look at how they ended the season, there was a lot of clean sheets for Everton towards that back end of the season. They finished
very strong last season. Yes, you're right.
So, I would expect, hopefully, to see a continuation of that from an FPL point of view, for sure. And then, obviously, you've got the dilemma. I mean, you'll clearly go Richarlison again, but you could be a sensible person and go for Sigurdsson instead.
Well, I think it's all price dependent. It's going to be price dependent. I mean, if
Richarlison... You're going to go Richarlison, aren't you?
If Richarlison's coming in at somewhere around 7... If he's 7.5, I think he's overpriced. If he's somewhere around 7...
You're going to get beaten by him again.
But he likes to come out of the blocks. He fades, right? He fades after Christmas. We've seen that in the last couple of years with Richarlison. But he starts
Or he gets sent off in game week 2, was it?
Well, who knows? If he's going around headbutting players again, then maybe I won't get him in. But I think you've mentioned a key target there for FPL managers going into the new season. Gylfi Sigurdsson, who we know has got some FPL pedigree, even snuck into the FPL Team of the Year at the back end of last year. So
crept in, didn't he?
So I mean, what was he last year? Maybe in the 8 sort of bracket or sort of.
Do you know? I can't remember. I should have looked.
Trying to think back to last year and what he was, but I'm expecting a little bit of a hike, not just because he showed a lot of promise towards the end of the season in that number 10 role that he prefers now that Silva's put in there, but also he's going to be on penalties most probably. And we know with VAR coming into the Premier League this year, the likelihood is, and I know you guys are going to say, I've seen the stats when it came in other countries, they didn't have as many penalties. It's not going to be as bad as you think. I think that VAR is going to make a massive impact in the Premier League. It's a sneakier game. We've got players that like to go over in the box quickly.
We saw it in the Champions League final. We've seen it a few times in the Women's World Cup so far.
And in the Men's World Cup a couple of years ago, right? Or last year.
So, and we saw it even in the league and the Nations League, didn't we? With the England goal being ruled out with VAR.
Absolutely,
There's been a lot of decisions that have used VAR already, and the season's not kicked off yet in terms of the domestic competition. So I think it's really important, and for me, the more penalty takers I can have in my team, as long as they add FPL value outside of the penalty.
And City gets points from other stuff as well,
Absolutely.
right? So.
But for me with Everton, I'm also going to be looking to see if they make any signings, because that forward position at Everton is a little bit shaky at the moment. I mean, is it going to be Calvert-Lewin? Like, who is it going to, who's he going to play up top? Are they going to sign somebody? Because a decent Everton striker could make for a really good FPL asset for the next.
Do you think he's going to put some faith in Dominic Calvert-Lewin?
Potentially, and I don't see why he shouldn't. I mean, Calvert-Lewin had a decent season last season, racked up some very good FPL points by the end of the year.
He did.
Once he was playing him regularly over Tucson, who I don't really see getting much time next year.
I think he's gone well off the boil, and I don't think Silva fancies Tosin. No, I think he's a non-asset for FPL managers this season, in my view. So who else is catching your eye from a good fixtures perspective? What about Manchester City? Right, I think they're right up there. Got some difficult games to start with. West Ham away and then Spurs. If you count Spurs as a difficult game, I don't know nowadays. I don't know. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on the Christian Eriksen and Danny Rose wanting to leave saga, but more on that later on. Manchester City.
Interested to get your views on how expensive divorce is.
Manchester City looking pretty good fixtures wise. I think regardless of fixtures,
what's Pep doing?
I don't know. That way to the top of the league. Regardless of fixtures, I think we always look at Man City, right? For players that are new to FPL. You've got to be looking at City, and I know that's an obvious thing to say given they're champions.
The last time you played Norwich on their first day of the season, what happened?
I've no idea. You're going to tell me.
You won the league.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay,
so
it seems a very long time ago.
Maybe he's pointing to the job centre when he gets sacked for not winning the league.
Ouch, absolutely not going to happen.
But you're right. I think you can't not look at City.
So who's on your radar? Obviously price dependent.
But... I mean, so for me, it's going to be KDB or Sterling for me in the midfield. I really want Sterling. He's my kind of first pick.
A lot of people on Twitter are actually making the decision between Sterling and Aguero because they're expecting those guys to come in again at a similar sort of value.
I'm not going
and happen to pick. You don't fancy Aguero on penalties for Man City?
I think it's difficult to say I don't fancy Aguero because clearly he's a fantastic FPL asset. I just prefer when I'm thinking about how I'm going to spend my City budget. I really want to have Sterling. I think I'm going to really struggle to have Sterling and Mane or Salah, depending upon which one I go with, and Aguero, and afford all of these other expensive assets that I'm talking about because they're not going to come in the game all nicely sitting under 100 mil, are they?
No.
So I think it has to be a choice between Sterling and Aguero. And for me, Sterling was absolute fire for me last season, and I just kind of can't see past him. I find it difficult to see past Sterling.
Yeah, I mean, a cracking season last season is probably going to get a bit of a price hike, although it's pretty expensive anyway. Yeah. But you kind of get the feeling he's probably going to be worth it, right? No World Cup to fatigue him over this summer, right? He's going to be full pre-season, full of confidence. Mm-hmm. He's going to be Pep's go-to player, as we know. I think Sterling's going to be a very popular pick in FPL, regardless of price.
Yeah, and the other one for me that will be in my first draft for sure is Laporte. For me, when I got Laporte at the end of last season, it was...
Due a price hike, though, surely?
Oh, 100%.
6.5?
Probably. But for me, Laporte, as soon as I had him in my fantasy team, it was one of those moments where I just went, what were you doing? Why did you not get this guy sooner? Like, what have you been doing all these weeks not having him? So, 100% Laporte in my first draft. And this is where the difficulty is going to come because, I've got to have a Liverpool defender. I want Laporte. These guys are all going to cost me in the 6.5s, probably 7 for one of them. Yeah,
let's hope FPL have put the budget up to 200 mil because
so I can't have Aguero and Sterling, can I? So I've got to make a choice between them. So it's not that I don't fancy Aguero. It's just for me, you have to choose between them, I think.
And I've seen a few tweets on Twitter with people saying as soon as the fixtures came out, 3 Liverpool, 3 City, and fill in the rest. I think that's a very difficult thing to do.
I don't think you can do 3 Liverpool and 3 City and fill in the rest because... there's so many other teams in there, like Everton, who have got really nice fixtures, but those players aren't going to be cheap. The Everton players and the Everton assets aren't going to be cheap assets. So in order to afford them, you can't go 3 City and 3 Liverpool, surely.
Okay, so if you're looking at teams with good fixtures and that might be a bit more budget friendly than the Liverpool and the City players.
Who you got for us?
Well, look no further than Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth, again, cracking season last year, loads and loads of FPL assets. Not so many defensive assets, right? So I'd be very interested to see who Eddie Howe signs over the summer and see if he can nail down some decent fullbacks. I mean, he tried it with Klein. I think the rumour coming out of the club is that Klein actually didn't finish the season on great terms with Eddie Howe, so I don't think they're going to make that loan permanent. And they've got a bit of an ageing back line there. I mean, Steve Cook and Ake are going to go in, although Ake's been linked with Spurs, I've seen.
He knows his way.
So let's see what happens to Bournemouth defensively, but offensively, it's an absolute myriad of options, right? With Brooks and with Fraser and with Wilson and Stanislas.
And we shouldn't overlook Josh King as well.
Absolutely shouldn't overlook Josh King, given that he is the designated penalty taker, I think, at Bournemouth. So
who's
caught your fancy there?
Well, I struggle to see past Ryan Fraser because for me, that man over the last few years, it's not even just last season, he's been really, really good, consistently good as well. So
but
picks
again,
up points.
He's
going to get a price rise. So you've got to then consider, well, do I actually then pick somebody like Brooks? But Brooks is going to get a price rise surely on where he started last season. Now, there's going to be a price difference I would expect between Fraser and Brooks. So it might be that in order to have these other assets that I've just been talking about, that I need to move Fraser down to Brooks. I go with the kind of one expensive striker and then fill the other two with the slightly cheaper ones, of which I would bracket Callum Wilson in that middling price point for strikers. And then again, it's a straight choice between Wilson and King, isn't it? And the trouble with Bournemouth, it's the trouble we had all season last year, is that you just have to pick one and put your faith in and trust them because they're going to share the points over the course of the season.
Okay, well, Bournemouth's fixtures read like this. Sheffield United at home to start the season off. So I think in game week 1, we are going to see a lot of Bournemouth players being picked for sure by FPL managers.
Yeah.
Then Villa away. Then Man City, which is clearly a difficult game. Then Leicester, Everton, Southampton, West Ham. So the ticker is looking pretty good for the first 6 or 7 fixtures. And I think there will be a go-to for people looking to save some money and spend big on the Cities and Liverpools of this one.
And the good thing about Bournemouth is they're not that expensive. So you can bench them if they've got a game against City in game week 3. It's not like you need massive surgery to remove them.
Yes, absolutely. So of all the teams that, I like to keep a keen eye on what's happening pre-season. The likes of Everton, the likes of Bournemouth, absolutely going to be watching how those guys get on. So Bournemouth, Everton, Liverpool, City, honourable mention for Palace and for Villa, got some good fixtures as well. Even West Ham, after their initial game against Man City, have got them Brighton, Watford, Norwich, Villa. So West Ham don't look too bad either. So I think we've covered the main protagonists there. What about going to the other end of the scale and looking at teams that have got actually a very difficult start to the season?
Well, where were Spurs in all of that?
Well, I don't see Spurs as having a cracking start to the season. Go on then, give us. You need to get this out of your system clearly. So go on then. What are you making of the Spurs start to the season? Here it is on the screen. Villa at home, which is phenomenal start. You'd think, although Villa are going to be up for that. Then away at City, home to Newcastle. Then the unpredictability of a North London derby. And I think if you look at game weeks 5 and 6. It's again a bit of a rollercoaster. Nice home game, difficult away game. In fact, it is Palace at home, Leicester away. So the Spurs start to the season is a very, very nice run of home games, but a very, very tricky run of away games. So it's going to be a rollercoaster. So give us your thoughts then.
Well, the thing is, so the home games are lovely. I have no issues with any of those. An away game against City. Whenever you play City, it's never going to be an easy game. It's never a good time to play City.
Are you going to be inspired by your Champions League victory over them, though? Going to go to the Etihad and get some early doors points?
I mean, if it starts off 4-4 within 15 minutes again or something ridiculous.
Get the VAR going again.
Oh, gosh. I don't know if I could actually watch it, to be honest. It was a bit stressful. There's never a good time to play City. There's never a time where they're going to be at a weaker point. So for me, why not get it out of the way in game week 2? It's not a big deal, is it? Go up there. We know we can score at the Etihad. So go out there and prod them and see what happens.
So prod City, all right. So tell us who's in your thoughts then. And in particular, very, very briefly, I want to hear your thoughts on Spurs setup without Eriksen, because it looks like Eriksen's out the door.
Well, no, because Real Madrid have said they can't afford him.
I think he's more or less come out and said that he wants to go.
He wants to go,
right?
but they've said they can't afford him. So
right.
he could be up a bit of a paddle. What is it? Up a creek without a paddle.
Up a bit of a paddle.
Up a bit of a paddle.
Yeah, go on then, who's in your thoughts then, very briefly?
What, for Spurs?
For Spurs.
No, I'm not having any.
You're not having any. Sam from FPL Family, not having any Spurs. No Harry Kane. I thought that was what you were going to say when you're not having Aguero. You're going to go Harry Kane, no?
I haven't really thought about my striking options up top yet. Probably
What's Kane's price going to be in Fantasy League this year? Is he going to get a reduction, do you think?
I should have thought so. He's been injured for most of the season, so probably 12.
Not by much, though. 12. Yeah, 12, I would say, at a push. I think he might even stick at 12. This is Harry Kane we're talking about.
The thing is, it's hard, right? Because Harry Kane doesn't score very well in August, as we know. Does he score well in August against Man City and Arsenal? Well, to be honest, if there's ever going to be 2 games away from home that he's going to want to go and score 2 goals, then, I think those potential in those games. Always scores against Leicester. You mentioned that game in game week 6. So, there is scope for Kane, and potentially Kane from Newcastle onwards, I think, could be a good option. And that's where my Spurs assets will come for game week 3.
Okay, so early wildcard potentially to get some Spurs assets in.
Oh no, you need to get 1.
Who knows?
Just get 1 for 3 and then 1 for 4 and then you're away.
In terms of other teams with difficult starts, I think Spurs are very they are bang in the middle there. Some nice games.
Don't call us mediocre.
Games.
Don't put us in the mediocre bracket.
In terms of fixture difficulty, you are absolutely middle of the road.
Ouch.
Teams that are absolutely towards the bottom of the ticker, and I feel a little bit for Norwich. I mean, they're going to have a very, very difficult start to the season away at Anfield. But then after that, it's home to Newcastle, so there could be something in it there for them. But then Chelsea, West Ham and Man City, and I think the fixtures are even pretty difficult the next couple after that too.
Well, let's not bracket Chelsea with being difficult at the moment, because what is going on there?
Well, we'll come to Chelsea in a minute, but from a Norwich perspective, I think, as an FPL manager, and if you're new to FPL and looking at this and thinking, right, I'm going to get on Norwich because they're cheap and they scored a lot of goals in the Championship, I think we've got the fixtures there, the perfect fixtures to have a look at Norwich, right? I don't think there's going to be too many people going in on Norwich on game week 1. The likes of Timo Pukki and Eni Buendia and players like that. I just think that we've now got an opportunity to have a look at them rather than rush into them game week 1.
I see what you're saying. I was looking at you strangely because I thought you were saying it's a good opportunity to get them, and I was thinking, have you gone mad?
No,
but no, you're right. It is definitely, it's a good opportunity to scout them in a Premier League environment and see how they're going to do.
I don't know how much we're going to gain from their visit to Anfield, right? We might see how ambitious they are going forward or not.
We might see a couple of price drops before we want to get them in.
We might because I guess Pukki is going to be, popular. But then, might be a lot of transfers out after they get smashed at Anfield. You never know. So let's have a look. So Norwich, I think, off the radar. Newcastle, similarly, very difficult start to the season. There's a couple of teams that I'd like to discuss, though, that have got difficult fixtures that, despite that, I still like the look of them based on their performances last season. The first is Leicester City. So give me your thoughts on the Foxes and how they're going to do over their first few fixtures, because Leicester City's fixtures are Wolves at home, and Wolves are the other team that I want to come to in a second. Leicester got Wolves at home, then Chelsea away, Sheffield United away, Bournemouth at home, Manchester United away. So it's not terrible, right? There's a couple of nice home games in there, but it's mixed, to say the least. So very briefly, what's your thoughts on Leicester?
But Leicester really play well in games that you don't expect them to, and they get points out of teams that you don't expect them to. So for me, Leicester having difficult fixtures isn't the end of the world.
Vardy likes playing against the top 6, doesn't he? So a game against United, he'd probably relish that.
So for me, I think it just comes down to deciding on a Leicester player. I think with the fixtures that they've got, you don't want to overkill Leicester, but what you do want is to decide on maybe one who you want to have going forward. Now, for me, that's not a defensive asset because I don't see them keeping a lot of clean sheets in those fixtures.
No.
But the likes of Maddison and Vardy and Tielemans, if he's still there, could offer good option.
Okay. So, Leicester home to Wolves, then away at Chelsea, you've already mentioned. Goodness knows what we're going to get at the Bridge.
Will they have any players left?
At time of recording, Sarri looks as if he's on his way out to Juve, and Frank Lampard looks as if he's on his way in. Right?
Frank!
Well, I put a tweet out there the other day to ask Chelsea fans how they felt about that.
Oh, I don't care about that. I get to see him on Match of the Day looking handsome.
And I think the general feel about it is that maybe it might be something a bit too early.
It's
for Frank.
definitely
I don't know.
too early.
But listen, so we don't know what sort of Chelsea we're going to get. So Leicester going to Chelsea with their record against the top 6 teams, the way that Vardy likes to play.
Chelsea got
maybe
United then Leicester.
Yeah. But maybe Leicester's fixtures don't look too bad. Wolves, Chelsea, then Sheffield United away, Bournemouth at home, and then a trip to Old Trafford on game week 5. So I put Leicester in the difficult bracket, but actually might not be too bad. So a word on Leicester. So yes, lots of I see Harvey Barnes signed a new 5-year contract just today. Harvey Barnes is there. The likes of Maddison, Tielemans, Vardy. Absolutely, we need to keep an eye on their prices and see what happens. Absolutely. Wolves, for their part, again, they're towards the bottom of the ticker with Leicester away, Man United, Burnley, Everton and Chelsea. So a difficult start for Nuno's men. But we know they've got a bit of pedigree from last year.
We do.
They're going to be playing in the Europa League as well. So we need to factor that in. Their squad, their first team is great, but their squad lacks a bit of depth. He's going to need to sign some depth over the summer to avoid doing a Burnley from last year, is my opinion.
Yeah.
So Wolves could be ones to maybe just hold fire on and see how they start the season.
But like I said about Leicester, Wolves also had a great record against the top 6 last year. So,
sure.
Let's not kind of wipe Wolves off in terms of fantasy assets because, whilst the likes of Doherty and Jimenez had great seasons last season, they're still going to offer they're not going to be as cheap as they were at the start of 2018-19, but they're still going to be cheaper than the likes of Robertson or Laporte. So we should factor that in. to our reckoning with Wolves,
Cool.
I think,
All
and
right.
potentially still, I'm still going to go Wolves,
Okay.
regardless.
So Wolves, you're looking at. Leicester, I think we're looking at, despite the difficult fixtures. The likes of Newcastle, probably Burnley.
Definitely
I
Bournemouth.
don't think we're going to be looking at those guys. Southampton, potentially, we might look at. They're a bit up and down with their fixtures. So look, I think to be honest, I think it's going to be a cracking year in the Premier League. I honestly do. I think any of the teams can beat any of the teams. I think the three that are coming up are going to have a tough time. They're going to have a tough
beat
time.
you this year.
You're going to beat us, you reckon?
Yep. See you in the
I
Champions
think we're
League
going to
final
be.
again.
I think we're going to be very hard to beat this year. I must admit, it's our year. I'll say it again. It's our year. I'll say
Here
it
we
again.
go. Predictions won't be difficult with you then, will they?
Well,
Salah,
no.
Golden Boot, Liverpool to win the league. Who are you relegating this year?
So what we'll do, guys, we will
Chelsea.
do our usual live streams when the game gets released. So look out for a live stream coming at you, I guess, middle of July-ish.
Probably around a month, I would have imagined.
About a few weeks from now. And if the transfer market really hots up, then we might do another one of these videos and get it out there. But the key thing to look out for is our first live stream, which will be in the days that precede the opening of the Fantasy Premier League game. This is just a taster. This is a little warm-up. This is our initial thoughts on the fixtures. If you want to hear more thoughts on the fixtures, then go follow us at FPLFamily on Twitter, at FPLFamily on Instagram. Just in one word, first name on your team sheet. Regardless of price, first name.
Sterling.
Sterling. Mine, Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Ooh,
First one on.
interesting.
Absolutely first one on.
Defender, how boring.
So there we go, guys. Only a few weeks to wait until the fixtures get released. If you're new to FPL Family, then please do hit that subscribe button. We'd love you to do that. Leave us a like before you go. Share the video. Go follow us on Twitter and Instagram. All that good stuff. And we will see you in a few weeks. Cheers, guys.
Take care, everyone.